Exciting day tomorrow because it is the final round of fixtures in the Women's Super League. The title and relegation still not decided quite yet. And of course, we've got a World Cup coming up on the horizon as well. It's looking like it's going to be an exciting weekend ahead.
Yeah, let's get the lowdown on that final round of fixtures then in the company of the director of the women's professional game at the LA, Kelly Simmons, is with us. Good morning.
Good morning.
Brought the trophy with us as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
Nice bit of bling to add to the studio this morning.
As a Newcastle fan, I've never been this close to a trophy. So this is fantastic for me, personally. Great to see you.
Who's going to be getting their hands on that tomorrow?
Well, it goes to the wire, which is fantastic. I think it's been the most competitive, compelling season that we've had, and everything's still to play for tomorrow.
Yeah.
The title, Champions League, and of course the big relegation battle. Obviously, Chelsea are favourites, and Emma Hayes' track record has been absolutely incredible in terms of the Women's Super League. But, you know, Reading are fighting for their lives, so, you know, it'll be a great game tomorrow. It'll be really interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, it just adds that extra bit of intrigue with Reading fighting for their lives, and Manchester United, no doubt, poised to take advantage of any slip-ups, of course. And have you enjoyed the season, sort of, not only in your professional role, but watching it as a fan?
I've loved it, and I think one of the great things about this season is Manchester United breaking into that top three, because it's made that whole Champions League battle for the top three places absolutely fascinating, because it's been dominated before by Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea. So them breaking in has made that as compelling as the title race. But yeah, it's been brilliant to see massive growth in attendances, big growth in audiences, a real bounce from the success of the Euros, and we've seen that come through in the Women's Super League in terms of, you know, we're averaging now around 6,000 coming to the games. You know, we've seen some big crowds. Of course, we need to keep, you know, building on that. And we've had record TV audiences as well. And I think there's some research came out last week from the Women's Sport Trust, you know, over 15 million people watching the WSL. So it's been a fantastic record-breaking season, but of course, you know, lots to build on.
Just to go back to Chelsea, they've had a few injury problems this season. Some big players have been missing for long periods of time, Fran Kirby being one of them. Emma Hayes herself hasn't always been in the dugout due to giving birth. So how impressive is it that once again they stand on the brink of a fourth consecutive title?
Well, I think it's about great leadership, that Emma was able to have to take that time out for health reasons, and she's got such a great team around her that they continued, I think, you know, undefeated during that period. And I think it says a lot about Chelsea's squad that they could cope, and they're still there on the final day, you know, expected to lift the trophy. That they've been able to come through those injuries, and I think it says a lot about the whole squad and the whole setup really at Chelsea.
There's so much riding on this game. I mean, I can't wait to just... I'm so pleased I'm a neutral. I'm just going to settle in on my sofa and watch it relax. But for Reading fans, it's, you know, they can go down and Chelsea win the title. I don't think I can ever remember a game in any football where there's so much riding on it for both teams with regards to one could go down and one could win the title. Yeah,
and it's fascinating. It's going to be really interesting to see how Reading do tomorrow. Yeah. You know, they are fighting for their lives, and people say, well, it's such a gulf, you know. But, you know, I think was it last season before, Birmingham, who were bottom at the time, beat Arsenal, who were top, and it dictated where the Women's Super League went at the end of the season. So it can happen. Yeah. So, yeah, it's going to be a really interesting final day tomorrow.
Just when you look at the bottom and the top, do you think that the gap is closing? Because, as you touched on, there have been three teams away and above for a long time now. United have joined that little group. Aston Villa have improved a lot this year as well. Do you think between 1st and 12th there is less of a difference than there used to be?
Definitely. I think that gap is closing, and of course, you know, there still is a bit of a gap, but I think Manchester United breaking through is important. Villa have played some great football, they've made some great signings, they're building. But I think it's important to remember that the Women's Super League has only been fully professional since 2018. You know, some of those clubs are relatively new. Manchester United haven't been going that long in terms of their senior women's team. Tottenham, what, 5 seasons ago, were an amateur football club. So, you know, it takes time to build that elite performance environment, that talent pathway, and build the squad. And you can see year on year those teams, you know, improving and building and getting closer to that top pack. So I think it's just set for a really exciting few years.
We've seen some incredible games this season, sort of in big stadiums. You know, the likes of the Emirates, Old Trafford has been used as well. I was at a game with 40-odd thousand at St James's Park when their women's team are in the third tier played there. But it's been fantastic to see. But then I speak to some of the players who say they quite like actually playing in the the smaller stadiums, the 4,000-5,000, when they're packed to the rafters and you get that atmosphere. How do you see it going in the coming years? Would you see more games being played in sort of, let's say, the men's stadiums, the big stadiums, or would you see women's stadiums getting bigger, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? But I think Arsenal have led the way for me this season in terms of identifying early those big games and saying, right, we're going to put these big games in the main stadium and we're going to market them and look at the results of that. Some fantastic. They're building a really great fan base there, big attendances and making profits on those games that can be invested back into the women's club as part of building long-term a sustainable women's club. And other clubs are doing that as well. And I think, that's what needs to be done, I think. I think we're in that transition, really, where maybe it's not every game is played in the main stadium because we're building those attendances. But those big games now, I think they've outgrown some of those small stadiums.
Yeah.
The game needs to move on. It's important that fans can get to those games. And it's important for the clubs that they build those attendances as part of building a sustainable league. So, it'd be great to see more clubs do, what Arsenal have done this season.
Yeah.
A significant day next week as well, as Serena Wiegmann names her squad for this summer's World Cup. I think the best thing that you could say is that there are going to be some very rightfully disappointed women who aren't in that squad because the strength in depth and the options that she has are so great, even though, again, there are some high-profile injuries.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see the squad, isn't it, next week?
You haven't seen it yet, then, no?
No, I haven't.
Peek?
No, I can't. No, I won't let anything slip because I haven't seen it. It's tight. Probably only Serena and her team probably know it at this stage.
Yeah.
What is great, though, is the number of young players that have broken through into that squad. And, of course, the Euro success was partly due to great experienced players and fantastic young players coming in and giving Serena, the sort of selection nightmare and headaches that she would desperately want. So I think, it's going to be a huge tournament and another great spectacle for the women's game. And, of course, in terms of the WSL, it's all about making sure we capitalise on that and keep building, just like we have done out of the Euro success. So, I can't wait for the summer. Yeah,
Kelly, you know what? It's really, really exciting to see how England can get on in the tournament and how that plays out. But also this weekend, the WSL, and we were saying just off air, it'll be fascinating to see what the game looks like in 10 years' time because it's growing so rapidly. Congratulations on the season. Thank you so much for coming in and seeing us today on Sky Sports News and bringing the trophy with you as well. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.